Okay, review number 6 on this. Simplifying square roots. Again, you don't want to you can't hit the square root button on your calculator. You need to use this sheet. Again, it's got everything you need. So, first problem we have to find what the square root of 64 is. That means what number times itself 64. So I go look at this list, and first off, 64 is on here, so it's equal to 8. Just put 8, and that's the answer. Okay, the square root of 112. Now, unfortunately, 112 is not one of my perfect square numbers, so I start dividing between these two, because that's what 112 is between. So I'm going to start with 100. Would be the best possible. I need to calculate it here. So I divide 112 by 100, and that's a decimal, so that won't work. So now I divide 112 by 81. Okay, it didn't work. 112 divided by 64, that was a decimal. 112 divided by 49, decimal. 112 divided by 36, that's a decimal. Now let's try to divide 112 by 36. Decimal. 112 divided by 25, decimal. 112 divided by 16, cha-ching. Okay. So now that I found something, I make two square roots like that. And I put 16 in the first square root and 7 on the second. Sorry, you can't really see that very well. Here, I'll get a different calculator. Okay, so again, I divided it by 16. I got 7, so I need to put 16 and then 7. Okay, now the square root of 16 has an equal, so you need to cross it out and replace it with its equal of 4, and then you write 4 with the square root of 7 next to it. Okay, now 30. Well, 30 is not on this list. It falls between these two numbers. So I take 30 divided by 25, decimal, that's 1.2. 30 divided by 16, that's a decimal. 30 divided by 9, that's a decimal. And then 30 divided by 4. Okay, so nothing worked, so this is my answer. Okay, you just circle it. Okay, now simplifying when there's letters and exponents, variables and exponents in the square root. First thing you're going to do is break up the square root so each factor has its own square root. So I've got the square root of 35, the square root of x to the 5th, the square root of y to the 8th. Okay, so 35 is not on this list. It would fall between these two. So 35 divided by 25, 1.4, that's not going to work. 35 divided by 16, decimal. 35 divided by 9, decimal. 35 divided by 4 is a decimal. So I'm just going to circle this because I couldn't get anything to work, and that is going to be inside. The 35 will be inside. I wrote inside. So when I make my answer with the square root, 35 is inside. X to the 5th, that would be 5 factors of x. And I need to circle them in pairs. So there's 1, 2, and then this leftover would be in the square root. So I have 2 pairs, there's 2 circles, so I put x to the 2nd power, and then I put this last x in a square root. Okay, y to the 8th, that would be 8 factors of y. So again, I circle them in pairs, 2 at a time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's none left. So how many pairs was I able to get? I was able to get 4. So y to the 4th, and then there's no y's at the end, so it's just going to be y to the 4th, and that's going to be outside. Okay. Okay, so I make my square root. Remember, we're putting 35 inside of the square root. We're going to put x to the second outside and then just an x inside. And then we're going to put y to the fourth outside. There's not going to be any y's on the inside. So x second, y to the fourth, and then the square root of 35x. Okay, now multiplying. Now the operation is to multiply. So multiplying square roots has 3 steps. First thing is you take 2 times 3, and that's 6, because those are both outside. And then I make a square root, and I multiply the insides. 5 times 10 is 50. Okay, now on step 2, I take the 50 onto this paper and see if 50 will divide. It's between these two. So I'll try to divide 50 by 49 first. Didn't work. 50 by 36 didn't work. 50 by 25. Okay, I got that to work. So now what I do is I drop the 6 and then times, and then I make 2 square roots. I make the square root of 50 into 2 square roots, and I want to put 25 in the first and 2 in the second. Okay, now 25 has an equal, and that's equal to 5. 6 times 5 is 30, and then put your square root of 2 next to it. Okay, and that's simplified. 30 square root 2. Okay, now adding square roots, again, that's a lot different. You need to make a kind of a graphic organizer chart here, and you're going to put the 2 terms, 2 square root 12 and 3 square root 27. Now you need to take the 12, the square root of 12, and simplify that. It's not one of the square roots, so I'm going to start at 9. 12 divided by 9 didn't work. 12 divided by 4, cha-ching. Okay. So I drop this 2. You got to remember to drop that outside. Times square root times square root. And I'm going to put 4 and 3 in that order. 4, 3. So the square root of 4 has an equal of 2. And then that allows me to multiply 2 times 2, which is 4 square roots of 3. Okay, now 27, I would look between these two. I'd start with 25, so 27 divided by 25 is fail. 27 divided by 16, fail. 27 divided by 9, cha-ching. So I drop the 3, and I make 2 square roots. I'm going to put 9 and 3. Okay, so I eliminate this square root because I know that always has an equal, and this time it's equal to 3, and then 3 times 3 is 9, and I put square root 3 next to it. Now what I've done is I've made these into like terms. If I have 4 of something and then 9 of that same thing, how many of those things do I have all together? Well, 4 plus 9 is 13, and then I put square root 3 next to it. Okay, now some triangle geometry stuff. Find the 3, by the way, I need to put you need to put that little square in there. I forgot to do that. Find the 3 trig ratios of the angle theta. So I know these are all ratios, and they're the sides, okay? And if I flip over this paper, the sine is equal to the O over the H. The cosine is the A over the H, and the tangent is the O over the A. Now I need to figure out what numbers these actually are. So across from the right angle's H, which I do not have anything for, okay? Now you use your theta symbol to find your O. So here's my theta, so that's O, and O is 25. So everywhere I have an O, I know that's equal to 25. Okay, and then the third side, this is H, this is O, and then the third side's A, and that's 16. So everywhere there's A, I'm going to put 16 in. And I actually have my tangent already. Now, I don't know the H, but I know 2 of the sides. H is really the only thing I don't know, so I can use my Pythagorean theorem. So a to the second plus o to the second equals h to the second. Okay, so a is 16, so 16 to the second power. O is 25, that's 25 to the second power. And remember, h is the one I didn't know, so that's x to the second. Okay, so I take 16 to the second power. You can either hit that or you can go 16 times 16. So that's 256. Then I take 25 to the second power, or 25 times 25, and that's 625 equals x second. Now, these are on the same side of the equation, so I'm not going to subtract. I'm going to add them together. Okay, so 256 plus 625 is 881. So 881 equals x to the second, and then I need to find the square root of the x of the 881 to know what x is. So I square root 881, and that's going to be 29.68. Okay, and remember, I knew that A was 16, O is 25, and the H then is going to be the 29.68. Okay, so all these H's are 29.68. Okay, and now I have my three answers. Okay, now the last one, easily probably the hardest one in this little group of problems. Find the three sides and the three angles of the triangle. So here's my sides, here's my angles. Let's do the sides first. Okay, so the sides, I need to know what the O, A, and H are. So here's O, and I don't know how long side O is. There's no units outside. Now, you don't have the theta sign, but you do have 41 degrees. So 41 degrees is known as your reference angle. And don't forget that. And across from 41 is the O. And O, or sorry, this is H here. Sorry, across from that's H. I screwed that up. Bad teaching. Across from right angles H. Across from 41 degrees is O. And O we know is 30, so I can put 30 in there. And then the third side is A. Okay? And we don't have a side. We don't know how many units that is. Okay, so if I only know one and not the other two, we're going to need to use ratios, line equals line. That's what we should set up. And the two sides I'm trying to figure out are A and H, so we need to separate those. So A, H, just like that. And I want to pair each one of those with the side I do know, which is O, like that. Okay, now, I know that each one of these, the reference angle is 41 degrees, so I need to put 41. And now I need to decide what word I'm going to use with A and O. Would it be sine? No, that's O and H. Remember, A and O. Cosine? No. Tangent? Yes. So tan, and I'm going to put a 1 in the denominator. And remember, tangent's O over A. Okay, so O I know is 30, and A I don't know, so that's X. Now here's my X. It's diagonal from tan 41, so I need to multiply the other two. So you need to write 1 times 30 divided by tan 41, and that's how to plug it into your calculator. Okay, and that's going to be 34.5 units, and that's the A. So 34.5. Okay, now H and O. H and O is sine. Okay, so we want to use the sine function. And a 1 goes underneath it. And sine is O over H. So you just write O over H. And the O I know is 30. And the H I don't know, so that's X. Okay. All right, so here's my X. So I look at what the other diagonal is. It's going to be 1 times 30, and then divide by the outside factor, which is sine 41. And that's how that goes into the calculator. 1 times 30 divided by sine 41. And I get 45.72 or 73, and that's the H. Your H should always be the longest side. Okay, now your angles are very easy. You know the square means you have 90 degrees. And then our reference angle was 41 degrees. And to find the other one, we know these three have to add up to 180 degrees. So if I take 180 minus 90 minus 41, that's going to give me my final angle. I got 49. All right.